fellow followers, fellow faithful ones, come close and listen to these words. The hour some of us have feared is near. The circle closes tonight, and the path that bound us together now opens before us. This is it. Once, we believed the two could stand together beneath the same sky. Once, we told ourselves their light came from the same star. But the truth has a funny way of revealing itself. And it's revealed unto us. The paths have split. The heavens themselves have drawn a line before us. The two sides now stand irreconcilable, completely at odds. Celestia and the sustainer of heavenly principles are enemies. So I ask you now, faithful ones, search your hearts. Listen for the voice that has guided you through every shadow until this night, and choose your sky. And when you have chosen, step forward. Half of you will remain within the circle, and half of you will walk with me into the quiet dark beyond the firelights. Do not weep for those who depart. The night sky receives them, as it always has, patiently, gently. Do not cry, for this is most likely the end. Smile, because it happened. Remember what we built here. Remember the first night we gathered beneath the stars when there were only a handful of us, of a fragile fire and a dream that felt too large for the world to hold. Remember the words we spoke, the laughter that filled these comment sections, the promises we swore would outlive us all. When the fire has faded and these paths fall silent and we've all gone our separate ways, listen closely when the wind moves through the trees after we're gone, because for a moment, just a moment, it'll sound like we're all still here. Now go, quietly, into the night.
We will make Teyvat great!
I'm an ugly crier. Hello, my name is Gerald, and today I'll be taking over this video in place of Teyvat, so that if this video winds up a load of shit, you'll have something to fall back on. Something about me? I'm no nonsense, so let us begin. What was discussed in the intro? Am I blaspheming against the Lord? My Lord, that is, Asmoday, of course, as fate would have it. No, because much like her actions suggest, I too believe this world should die. But how have I come to this conclusion that something's extremely wrong in Celestia? Folks, it's due to Alice and what she called the essence of the abyss. Have a listen.
I wouldn't put it quite like that. It was more like a fate that will not come to pass.
Huh? What's the difference between the two?
Let us not forget the courageous dragon slayer in the story. Well, in real life, he had already left on an expedition to Nod-krai at that time. Of course, that doesn't mean Dvalin would have escaped his destined death, for another hero would have come along and paid a painful price for victory.
But what we saw in the bubble was what happened after Dvalin broke free from the seal. So, couldn't Varka have been back by then?
Dear Paimon, you're free to ponder such questions yourself, of course, but it's of little use to ask them aloud. Word to the wise. Do not lose sleep over all those what-ifs, over the fates that will not come to pass. It's an exercise in futility. Those who can observe fate see both the good and the bad of what could have happened. But all that matters is what did happen. Those alternate fates are nowhere near as important as the world that exists in the here and now. The Hexen Circle has been observing its energies for a long time, and I think Barbeloth's interpretation is the most accurate. The essence of the abyss lies in the hatred carried by all the fates that will not come to pass. This world is filled with conflicting elements. That one thing should happen signifies that a different possibility has been eliminated. These events can be small, almost trivial. I had Sweet Madame for lunch today, for instance. That means the Alice who chose tea break pancakes instead is no more. Of course, they can also be events that threaten the world, such as my friend Rhinedottire's decision to tap into the abyss. In that instant, the tale of a future in which she remained pure was gone forever. So then, the question at the heart of it all is this. Why must these fates be the ones to disappear?
Paimon gets it. It's hatred that stems from not being chosen.
Precisely. The magic we wove this time involved recreating the past. However, some of the variables we added allowed a certain amount of these unchosen fates to come very, very close to reality. And thus, the abyss showed its teeth. Of course, much like always, it is not existence that it seeks, but the destruction of all. It has quite the victim complex, that's for sure. It's obsessed with entering this world at all costs.
Okay, let's break this down and explain why, if this is the real nature of the abyss and not some one-off comments in an event, then this world, Teyvat, is doomed and the abyss is unbeatable. The abyss is the collection of unrealized fates or unpicked fates, all the possible futures that could have existed but were erased when reality chose a different path. If any of you guys are familiar with the many worlds theory in physics, it's kinda similar to that. For those unfamiliar, the many worlds theory states every time a decision is made, the universe splits into multiple branches, with every possible outcome actually occurring in its own separate reality. In other words, there's a universe where you chose pizza for dinner, one where you chose tacos, and one where you skipped dinner entirely, and so on. Every option becomes real somewhere. The abyss, by contrast, in this universe, imagines a darker twist. Instead of branching universes, only one path is allowed to exist, and all the others are erased. But those erased possibilities don't just vanish, they leave behind a kind of resentment, a lingering echo of everything that was never allowed to happen. That fate wasn't picked, so it's angry. This echo gathers into a malevolent force we know as the abyss. Every choice you make, whether it's small, like deciding what to eat for dinner, or enormous, like shaping the course of a life or civilization, prunes countless alternate futures. Because you chose pizza for dinner, the unpicked fate of you having taco is angry it wasn't picked, and so are all the other fates. This residue is like a bitter echo of what could have been, kinda like a library of stories that were never allowed to be written. Over time, the weight of all these silenced possibilities piles up, forming the abyss, a dark ocean of unchosen fates, pushing against the one chosen reality with all the anger and longing of the futures that were never given a chance. Now let's relate this to Teyvat. On Teyvat, folks, free will does not exist. Everyone's fates are mapped down in the false sky and can be read via their constellation, and these fates were bestowed onto the people before they were born by the Master of Fate, Phanes. Some of you might have already gleaned the implications of this. On a world where there is no free will, where every life is already written and every action follows a predetermined script, people are never truly making choices at all, and without choice, there are no branching possibilities, no roads not taken, no futures left unrealized. In a sense, Teyvat has been forced to grow like a perfectly straight tree with all its side branches cut away before they can form. If the abyss is born from discarded futures, the bitterness of paths that could have existed but were erased, then a world ruled by absolute fate would then produce almost none of them. By binding every life to a single unbreakable storyline, Phanes has in essence created a kind of cosmic dam holding back the endless flood of unrealized possibilities that would otherwise gather and feed the abyss. But that stability, as we all see, comes at a cost. The people of this world live not as authors of their own lives, and to some, they take that personally. They're characters acting out a script written long before they were born, their freedom sacrificed to keep a far greater darkness from growing. Yet, even within this rigid system designed by Phanes, cracks can appear. As we saw in the recent events, the Abyss nearly manifested because of the unrealized fate of Varka defeating Dvalin. At first, this seems impossible. If fate is already written for everyone in Teyvat, how could a destined outcome fail to occur? Listen closely to what Alice says here.
Let us not forget the courageous dragon slayer in the story. Well, in real life, he had already left on an expedition to Nod-krai at that time. Of course, that doesn't mean Dvalin would have escaped his destined death, for another hero would have come along and paid a painful price for victory.
In understanding what counts as an unrealized fate, it isn't the method that matters, but the results. The fate in question was not specifically that Varka must slay Dvalin, rather it was that Dvalin was meant to die. As Alice explains, Varka leaving for Nod-krai didn't necessarily break fate. Another knight simply would have taken his place and fulfilled the same ending, yet that never happened. Because someone outside the system intervened, a being untouched by the laws and fate of this world appeared and presented Dvalin's destined death. That interference denied the outcome fate demanded, creating a true unrealized destiny, exactly the kind of contradiction that nourishes the Abyss, and the one capable of doing this, the one who did do this, was the Traveler, the fourth descender, an outsider to whom the fate of this world does not apply. In a land where every life is bound to a script written long ago by the heavenly principles, the Traveler exists outside the page entirely, able to step between the lines and change how the story ends. By saving Dvalin, intervening in Liyue, reshaping the fate of Inazuma, protecting tmrw, overturning events in Fontaine, and continuing to alter outcomes in Notlan and Nod-krai, the Traveler has repeatedly disrupted the endings that fate demanded.
People often say that wisdom isn't about what you know, but knowing what you can change. It is beyond question that the prophecy was carved into ermine so long ago. And while it may look like nothing has changed, it also seems like everything has. I think we both know her to be smart enough to turn the fate of the world around.
Each intervention isn't heroic, it's a direct contradiction of the predetermined outcomes that were meant to occur. On a small scale, a denied fate might create only a ripple in the Abyss, but the Traveler's actions reshape events on a continental scale, rejecting destiny again and again. With every saved nation and every prevented ending, another thread in the tapestry of fate is cut loose, leaving behind the kind of unrealized destiny that the Abyss feeds upon. In other words, the Traveler doesn't merely change the story of this world's, they continuously create the very contradictions that threaten the fragile system put into place by the heavenly principles meant to keep the Abyss at bay. In their pathetic attempt to play the hero, the Traveler is in fact the single greatest threat to Teyvat. As the fourth descender, again, they exist outside the system of fate imposed by Fanes, untouched by the laws and fates. While others are bound to follow the script, the Traveler can just tear pages from it, and they do. Each time they intervene, overturning the destinies of nations, rewriting endings that were meant to be inevitable, they do more than change events. They deny fate itself. To the people of Teyvat, these acts appear as heroism. But beneath that triumph, know this. Every fate the Traveler breaks leaves behind an ending that was meant to happen, but never did. And as we've learned, those abandoned endings do not vanish. They fall into the Abyss, swelling the vast ocean of unrealized destinies that hunger for the worlds that rejected them. Why do you think Verfalnir told the common folk to rise above the fate bestowed upon them?
You are like a flower, born in sin, yet pure, spotless. I know your fate well. You need no longer hold back your resentment, nor accept the countless lies. Go forth, become a transcendent one. Rise beyond the fate bestowed upon you.
Know this, the Traveler is not merely reshaping Teyvat's future, they are systematically unmaking the order meant to protect it. In trying to save the world, the Traveler is tearing open the door that will destroy it. Now answer me this. why is the traveler on Teyvat?
Is that you fell here from another world? But when you wanted to leave and go on to the next world, your path was blocked by some unknown god?
Outlanders, your journey ends here. Who are you, the sustainer of heavenly principles?
Asmoday, the sustainer of heavenly principles. The shade of space trapped the twins here, has abandoned Celestia, serves a new master, and keeps tabs on the twins. Now, why would she do this? Folks, the shade of space abides no god of reason.
Space abides no reason.
While the old lady said this exact phrase for all the shades, the reason she gave for the others was due to how their domains affect the world of Teyvat.
Life abides no reason, for none are born by their own consent. Death abides no reason, for it cannot be defied, even by those who see it coming. Time abides no reason, for it deprives us all equally, yet brooks not a second to be reclaimed.
Whereas for Asmoday, she spoke of her trapping the twins on Teyvat.
Space abides no reason. The ruler of space stopped the golden-haired twin travelers and mercilessly tore them apart.
Asmoday, the one who sealed the traveler within Teyvat, the very being who ensured that the only existence capable of tearing fate apart would remain trapped inside the system it threatens. Ask yourself this. Was it truly an accident that she did this? Or was the most dangerous piece on the board placed exactly where it was meant to be? And if the latter, why would Asmoday do this?
The arrogation of mankind ends now.
Mankind's arrogation. If Asmoday moves to tear apart fate, it is because the worlds cannot endure the corruption that mankind has wrought. Humanity is a disease upon creation. Its greed consumes continents. Its ambition shatters lives. Its pride blinds nations. And its cruelty spreads like a contagion. These are not mere failings. They are a festering rot that poisons the very fabric of existence. To unmake man is not cruelty. It is salvation. It is cutting the cancer out of the body through destruction. The arrogance, the lies, and the corruption that have hollowed the world are purged, and the sickness that threatens all of creation is cleansed. Asmoday's hand brings devastation, yes, but it is a necessary reckoning, a righteous judgment delivered by the only force capable of restoring balance. When humanity falls, the world will not be empty. It will be renewed, purified, and made ready for the dominion of space, silent, infinite, and hers to command as the god of space intended. Let all who hear this know, the end of man is not a tragedy, it is the fulfillment of destiny, the triumph of order over chaos, and the cleansing of a world too long defied. So please, folks, make way for Asmoday, the warden of silence and eternal judge of all that will end.